right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM. Joining you as usual from slightly gloomy San Diego today. But I'm delighted to be joined by Kasper Sierslev, who is in beautiful Denmark, Copenhagen, Copenhagen, Denmark. Sorry, other way around. In the beautiful capital there. How are you doing, Kasper?
I'm doing good. It's not that sunny here. It's 7 o'clock p.m. But I'm doing really good. Apart from
Good,
that,
good. And I hope your winter isn't too severe.
no, it's really boring in this part of Scandinavia. Not that much snow, just rainy and gloomy. If you ever come in summer, it's beautiful in
Uh,
summer. But
well,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, you do have some good beer, so I
yeah.
may do that. And Casper is not just a marketer; he's a visionary thought leader dedicated to transforming in-house marketing and creative collaboration. As a founder company that helps brands establish and fortify in-house competencies, you bring a wealth of experience, extensive background, and pivotal roles in respected brand agencies, as well as your own startup and overseeing global campaigns for one of the world's largest shipping companies. Your passion is for in-house marketing, as evidenced by your best-selling book, Moving In-House.
Yeah,
Excellent. It's better than moving to the outhouse, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what we're going to talk about today is revolutionizing marketing, how an in-house marketing, how that can shake up the industry. So, I mean, I guess, Casper, the first question is why the passion for in-house marketing, considering that a lot of marketing has been going towards being outsourced and leveraging agencies and basically sort of getting away from building in-house marketing capabilities.
So I come from a traditional marketing advertising background with external agencies. And at one point, I got really tired of not being in control of everything, just doing the films, the ideas, and then just not being able to follow through on all the touch points actually. So I switched to Maersk, a big shipping logistics
Right.
company. Um, and I just realized how much fun it was and how much you could actually do in all the steps on the user journey with a bit of creativity everywhere instead of just focusing like most traditional advertising agencies does on the upper funnel, on the big campaign stuff. So I think that's where the passion came from actually. And then when I moved on to another company, I realized it's just the same. The methods, the methodology, the ways that you do things is actually the same. So that's why I realized there's probably a market for this, and that's why I wrote the first book about
Excellent.
that.
And so, I mean, for some people, they would say, okay, but that means I have to, hire a huge team. I've got to get all these different experts in these different areas. And talk me through how do you build a team in a kind of an efficient and productive manner?
I think I think the last two words are actually the most important ones. It's to actually figure out what is efficient and where do you spend your money. So
Mhm.
I'm not saying you should bring everything in house. I think that would be a waste of time and money, and you will probably have creative people, that dries out on their creativity because
Right.
they're not challenged. So I think it's about looking at the things that you buy externally and say, is this, how much do I actually buy of this? Would it make sense to have our own copywriter, graphic designers? Most company has that, and then try to figure out, should I buy the big ideas externally and then do everything myself and so on. So it's very much the balance, and it's doing the math, which I realized a couple of years back, not a lot of companies are doing that math, and they just buy everything with external agencies. So it's that's really the core of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that is often the case because let's face it, in marketing has gotten away over a long period of time with being very fuzzy on metrics and ROI and things like that, in a way that obviously say, on the sales side, it's pretty straightforward. On the marketing side, it can be a little bit more vague. So I think you're right. I think a lot of companies don't measure those things properly, don't really understand the cost of it, and it seems like a good deal when you get to outsource something.
Yeah. Yeah. That said, I think there's been too much focus on the whole performance marketing. I think it's got
Sure.
well way too far on that. I think it makes sense on measuring. Of course, I'm a big fan of data, but it just seems like you're only measuring one part of the site, and then you're contributing all the effort of building brands and doing something that people actually remember
Mhm.
to the last click, to
Mhm.
be point.
Right.
But I think it that's really much the essence of what I think with the benefits of in-house is that you don't have to start, explaining everything from Adam and Eve
Right.
to a new company every time, or new agency, and you have a more coherent experience across, all the touch points all the way through the funnel, because it's the same people in your company that actually creates the final asset. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't buy a great idea with a great,
Right.
advertising agency or digital agency.
Yeah, because let's face it, I mean, isn't that the essence of brand building? It's the consistency across all of the touch points and then the evolution of the brand over time. And I guess you're right. That's a hard, if you're always working with outside agencies, and maybe sometimes, let's face it, the people you work with at an agency may move on to somewhere else. So you're back kind of educating a new person. So I guess in many ways, if you do it properly, brand building allows you, when you do it in house, allows for that consistency.
Yeah, and and consistency is one of the things. There was a big report from a company called System One, who does all these metrics on the big IPA, which is the big database of advertising throughout, I don't know, last 20-25 years. And they looked at consistency and the benefits of keeping the same message. You always, build on top of that, but and it was huge, when you didn't change the core idea, or the core logo, visuals, and so on. It's like 3 times efficient as companies who are changing it 2 times a year, which is a lot. But it's it's still a lot, when you keep the same message throughout the year, and then you build on top of it. And that's, I think, I mean, just look at the companies like Heinz or Coca-Cola or something like that.
Mhm.
I mean, right now there's a big debate on Heinz doing a campaign without any logo, just says it has to be on toast or what. I can't even remember, but
Yeah,
it's something
yeah.
like that. Um,
It's
um,
a bit like the new Jaguar campaign too, isn't it? You know, it's like, okay,
yeah.
yeah, good luck with that one. Anyway, but yeah, and I think the good point there too is that when you work with a lot of outside agencies, and and some of them are great at everything, but also, I mean, they're going to bring new ideas. They're going to sometimes want to change things. And sometimes it may be, not, as you said, not changing things may be the better route to go. So you have to balance that too about, are we being creative, or are we just being creative for the sake of being creative?
Yeah, yeah. And I think you can be creative on top of a consistent brand. I
Right.
mean, that's the best way to be creative. That's always building on top of something that, that common understanding of what the brand voice is, or what we used to say. So I
Mhm.
would definitely recommend being creative, but I would do it without changing everything from, visuals and the basic idea.
Yeah. And then how do you help them like establish and understand what their brand voice is? Because I think this is sometimes the thing is like companies don't really have a good handle on what their brand is, what their brand voice is. They think they know what it is, but again, they're kind of a little vague on it, and then it's open to interpretation.
Oh, I don't know. That's a great. It's a great question. If I was able to answer that, I would be happy. I think it's very much, it's a lot of elaborative work where you talk to, employees, you talk to
Mhm.
customers, you talk to sales, because I mean those are the guys who are actually in the trenches
Mhm.
meeting the customers. So it's very much understanding what the perception of the brand is, and then, I mean, you could probably go with anything
Right.
almost, as long as you're consistent and building on that. Then I think that would probably be better than changing all the time. So,
Mhm.
but finding that, that voice, we normally recommend working with some, we call it like brand pillars. For
Right.
instance, I was the head of creative at a jewelry and interior brand called George Jensen, which I don't know if you know this. It's pretty Scandinavian, and this is a more than 100-year-old jewelry brand from a Danish goldsmith, silversmith, who did all this. So we had like three brand pillars. Always talk about heritage, and
Mm.
because we had the smithy with really experienced and amazing craftsmen, we were always talking about craftsmanship in what we did, and then we talked about the Scandinavian design. So every time we had to do some kind of story or video or advertising, there was always try to add those three elements into all the stories. So say, how do we say that we are Scandinavian craftsmen and so on. So try to find brand pillars that you can actually evolve from. That's how we normally work with companies, and say two or three or four. I mean, not too many, but
Mhm.
obviously, and they don't have to be in everything you do, but all of them. But I think you should always have something. Say this is how we always talk about this. This is how we always talk about that.
Right.
But then be
And
free about it. Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. And so if somebody is considering, say somebody has a lot of things outsourced right now, or maybe everything outsourced, and they're considering moving in-house, what would you say, where are the first places to start, or how should you even approach a project like that?
So normally we approach it in a two-way stream. So one of them is actually looking at what do you want to do, instead of spreading yourself thin on all kinds of platforms and collateral. Say let's do something great on one platform and be good at something. So figure out what kind of content do you need, and then it's very much going to your finance department and figure out how much are we actually paying freelancers, our own employees, how much time do we get, or how much value do we get from what we are paying those. So that's the boring part that
Mhm.
takes a couple of weeks to go through, invoices and figuring out what are we actually paying for. And then it's good old Excel sheets and actually figuring out, would it make sense to hire someone in? Could we build a team, or is it a too small for a team? Should we,
Mhm.
I'm not all in-house in
Sure,
any
sure.
way. So would it make sense to make collaborations with agencies that feels like in-house, but you onboard them very much and you invite them in and you do maybe collateral or collaborative work together. So you develop ideas together, and you don't make them go all the way and finish everything before you see it. Sometimes it's really nice to work with sketches and so on and
Mhm.
be part of that process. So
Mhm.
that was a long answer to a very simple question. How do
No,
you
no,
how do you
no,
do
but
this?
no,
But
it's
but
no,
it's I
great.
think it is very much looking at the data before you decide and say what do you want to do. Um, for a lot of the companies that we work with, they seems to have in common that they're either complex, so that means that they are probably B2B or even
Yeah.
B2B2C or something like that. They are in many markets, so that means they have a need for translation and versioning, or their product is somehow complicated to understand, so it takes a lot of time to understand it for a copywriter or something like that. So that's one common denominator for brands that make sense to have in-house. The other one is speed.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
gonna ask you about speed.
so we work with, since you mentioned Jaguar before, Jaguar and Land Rover and some of the car brands in Scandinavia. And when Elon Musk does something and Tesla lowers the price, they need to be up to speed
Mhm.
the same day and have new ads with different prices and so on. And there it makes a lot of sense to sit next to the sales manager and say, okay,
Yeah.
we're lowering the price, do the assets, do the campaign now,
Mhm.
and not having to call a project manager who finds time in a so
Yeah.
those two things I would say is one of the things the things that you
Yeah.
should look at.
And I think the speed thing is, yeah, as you could say, it is, particularly can be particularly important because, yeah, when you work with outside agencies, then you're kind of subject to their internal processes and how long it takes and their approvals and all of that kind of stuff. And I mean, you've got some very nimble ones, obviously too, but I think in-house it does allow you that extra, being able to react that much quicker if you have the right resources to do it.
Yeah. So, and I think that's one of the things that really works well is speed. It's being pleasant, be present, being you know react to something. For instance, one of our friends used to work at a Scandinavian airplane company called Norwegian, and a couple of years back, when Brad Pitt and Angelina split, they had this ad running the next day, said Brad is single, go to LA for something Danish, the 700 something. And and it's just because they were able to react that fast and say, you know, maybe legal will come, but we will win in the long run because people will react to this ad. And so um,
Yeah, clever. And I think the other thing that you touched upon there earlier is you're also that much closer to your sales organization, which is obviously the tip of the spear. That's the one that interacts with the market, with customers and prospects, etc. So there's a lot of intelligence there, and sometimes it's hard to communicate that externally, maybe, or because often it comes in kind of casual ways almost.
yeah. I mean, it's the very old, David Ogilvy, Rolls Royce, the tick of the clock, or something like that story. But I think a lot of it is, eating in the same canteen, following things, listening up on conversation that hasn't been, passed
Mhm.
on through
Yeah.
several people. Like I'm a, can you still say Chinese Whisper? That's a game we, do you know like no, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think they
Yeah,
call it
yeah.
something different. I think they call it, I don't know. They call it
No,
telephone here, I think, actually.
yeah. I think it's the other one's probably you know wrong now.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think, and there's so much insight that you can pick up from salespeople and their interaction. Because the other thing at the end of the day, isn't it, Casper? Like, I mean, the thing that's true about all marketing and all brand, it's the customer decides what it is at the end of the day. It's not us.
yeah, it is. And I think, I mean, yeah. so if it and one of the things that we can see in this more digital way is when we're able to look at the data, right? That was really a big thing at Maersk when we did not everything, but for some of the big campaigns was, we can press play on a campaign and you could see how it evolves. And if it didn't hit that target within the first 10, 15 minutes, you could change the headline, you could
Mm.
flip swings around, you could change I wouldn't say the product because that's shipping, but but you could do something different. And having an external agency where you have to call someone and say, you get the report next Friday, or it's just a totally different ball game. So being close to data is definitely also a benefit of sitting in house.
Mhm.
You have a more qualified discussion on what's working.
Yeah. And just last question, I know this is a big one, so you can answer this briefly, but give me the impact of AI on in-house marketing.
Oh yeah. In 2 minutes. No, I think one of the things. So we built brand voice. We call them AI agents. I think that's the word now.
Mm,
So we trained our own agents that's compliant to everything on old materials. So it's not like they're writing everything for us, but they, you can ask them a question and they will write back in the right tone of voice. Especially, we have one customer that has several car brands, and it's very important to split the Jaguar tone of voice
mhm,
from the
yeah.
Land Rover or the Hyundai. Um, so that's one of the things. It's really, getting faster to 7 or 80%. I have this thing I say when we have to develop ideas. It's difficult to come up with 100 bad ideas in a row. So
Mhm.
you need to have 100 ideas to get something, not
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily, but And by using AI to suggest directions and inspire you, I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
Right now, I think that would be have been my answer 2 or 3 months ago. Right now, we are working with a garment brand where we are actually taking all the still photos, still images, and turning them into videos, which is working really well, which is surprisingly good. So having almost doubling your catalog of assets and being able to take a boring photo and then use it on social media, as long as of course you have the rights with
Yeah,
the
sure.
model and everything to do that.
Ec-
That's really addressing when you're working with fashion brands or something, like
Mhm.
showing the product on people and so on is a
Yeah.
big thing.
And
um
I like that what you said about, the fact that you're able to take the agents and train on all the stuff from the past and everything, so that they're bringing your voice, your approach, all of that. They're learning constantly. I mean, I think that is the way, that is the smart way to implement AI, is using it on your own data.
yeah. And then one thing that we are still in the testing phase is like some AI tracking tools. So it's basically trained on human behavior, looking at different ads and people and so on. So that means that we're able to test things before we go to market with them and see, is there something here? Are people getting, are they enthusiastic about this, or are they just by looking at a small sample and then scaling it up, for instance.
Perfect.
We're not there yet, but it's that's one of the interesting
Yeah,
things.
well, you know the way it is with AI. You're not there yet, but you might be in about 10 minutes. The way things are
Yeah,
going.
yeah, and I know, and that's also I mean, the answer I gave before was probably what I would have said, before Christmas, and
Yes.
since then we got wiser, and
Oh, no.
but I would
Ex-
still say, getting you started, like, ask anything, any AI, give me 10 ideas on how to write a blog post on something,
Yeah.
and don't take it for, take it for what it is,
Yeah,
let you
yeah, yeah.
use it to get
And
inspired.
maybe use 2 or 3 different tools at the same time,
Yeah,
so you get
yeah.
different insights, because they all kind of are different in their nuanced approach. Well, listen, Casper, this has been really fascinating. Thank you so much for staying up late there in Copenhagen to talk to us. All of Casper's information will be below this video, but before we go, please do tell people a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah, so our company is called Site, and so we help companies build in-house agencies, and we also run them for some companies where we have people in here. But I think what be most interesting for people is probably, if they don't want to read all the books, then go into we publish a report every year. This is the last one from last year, about in-house trends, trouble, why you shouldn't, why you should, and what kind of things that people are moving into, where we interview more than 1,000 people from Europe, UK, and the US as well. So in a few weeks, probably when this is out, we will have a new report, and yeah, go to the in-house barometer and get it for free.
Fantastic.
If you want to know anything, of course, about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I would encourage you to go check it out. As I said, all the links will be below here. So thanks again, Casper. Thank you for watching, listening. See you all again very soon. Thank you.